Alright, time for some Naans and Namkeen. Try saying that 10 times fast. So here we just weigh out the flour for the naans, and then we pass it through this sieve. I think it adds oxygen or something to help the flour breathe or something. Not really sure, to be honest. Let's just ignore the fact that I spilled like half of it on the worktop. Now this is really satisfying watching it in fast forward. Now in with the baking powder. It's surprisingly quite a lot. I think it's just to help the naans rise. It does make a very nice puffy naan at the end. Here's a tip, don't eat this raw. It's not very nice. I found that out the hard way. Then the magical ingredient, salt. So we've done the dry stuff, let's move on to the wet stuff. Now this does seem to be very, very wet when you make it, especially the fact that I am making a half batch and the recipe calls for 3 eggs, and you can't exactly split an egg, meaning that my mixture is quite a bit more wet than usual, so I just end up adding quite a bit more flour when I'm rolling it out. Not to the point where it dries it out, but it has to be taken into consideration. Take the milk off to the heating chamber and put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds to a minute. Apparently the yeast only eat things when they're hot, so I heat it up to a temperature that wouldn't be uncomfortable for me to bathe in. Not that I bathe in milk, I swear. I mix in the sugar and the yeast. This here is a Danish whisk, used in Daneland, I think. I don't know, they probably make good pastries there or something if they've got a whisk named after them. I then put this in the proving drawer to see if the yeast is still alive. Place it in there for about 10 minutes. At this point bubbles will form if the yeast is active, and it will not do anything if it is not. Here we go, time for the eggs. Perfect! Oh, I'm getting good at this. One-handed cracks. I mean, yeah, completely natural, no effort at all. Behold, the poor man's whisk. We just stir these eggs until they're completely incorporated with each other. It's right here that I'm showing you. This is not complete. You have to make sure that there is no distinctive difference between the colour, or at least that's the way I've always been taught. Air bubbles are your friend here. And there you have it. A well incorporated 2 one-handed cracked eggs. Now this yogurt is from Greekland. It's a lot thicker than usual yogurt, and I think it helps make the yeast really fat, and then the yeast really puff up in this situation. And whisk. Out comes the yeast mixture, and as you can see it's definitely puffed up. Now comes the sticky part. Well in the centre, and just pour the rest of the liquid in. This thing does not like me. I've seen situations where people have just pulled it out and rolled it on the board and it slowly firms up over time. Yeah, those people definitely aren't me. Flour down, and even this amount of flour isn't enough to stop the sticking. Into the bowl. As you can see, it's quite a dense ball at this point, almost no puffiness to it, no bounce back. My fingers here leave a couple of imprints. So this towel right here is a magical towel, and when I hold it over I speak an incantation and all of a sudden anything inside will automatically grow. Ignore the change in lighting, this is entirely the magical towel at work. Time to roll out. These naans definitely are not my friend. They refuse to work with me, and they just stick constantly to the board. Anyway, I got one. There we go. The next one should be a bit easier, now that I kind of understand how to do this. Not really. Okay, I definitely require help here. Okay, into the witch's cauldron lid, and the black magic bestowed within me should slowly rise this naan to its full potential. Yeah, this is about the 3rd naan we tried to record. Even now you can see the puffiness and superiority to any form of store-bought naan. And those black spots, they aren't burnt, they're caramelized, I swear. Now here's a time lapse of the other ones that we did. As you can see, I'm still trying to get the timing down for this, but I am enjoying it. It's working. Now the moment you've all been waiting for, the final product. Next to it you can see some raita. That's just a simple mix of that Greek yogurt with mint and lime juice. It adds a bit of freshness to the dish. Plus, it kind of saved my life when I ate a whole chili. Probably wasn't the smartest idea, but at least this thing acted like a fire hose in my mouth. Now to move on to the chicken. Honestly, I surprised myself with how quickly I can cut things. These are going straight into the pan because the fat needs to render out of them slightly. They're going to go into very little oil. Plus, these are thighs, so they have quite a bit of internal fat that can render out for them. I quickly wash the board and come back to chop the other things that are going into this namkeen. This is probably one of the simplest curries that I have ever made. This is tomato, chili, pepper, and the ginger that will go in at the end. And that's it, but it still manages to be very, very flavourful. The chicken takes quite a long time to cook because I've set this at a very low heat. However, if you know anything about cooking, thighs are always the low and slow things, which means it only intensifies the flavour as it cooks. It's one of the other reasons that I've chopped these up very small so that everything cooks at the same time, because I didn't want a large chunk of fat to be still stuck inside of a chicken thigh, or a lot of uncooked meat in the centre, which obviously isn't exactly the healthiest thing in the world. Now, my sister's vegetarian, so she obviously doesn't want something that has meat in, so I decided to make her the same kind of thing, just on the side of the main dish. All I do here is add the chili, a set of tomatoes from the tin that we're using, and cook that together. I do actually end up adding a bit of lemon juice because her dish did taste a bit flavourless, but I still used the main ingredients from the curry that we're having. The ginger goes on right at the end as well. Now, because this chicken has been cooking in its own fat for quite a while, it's very colourless, but that will soon change as the tomato sauce displaces the internal juices. In with the 3 chilies and let that cook for quite a while, and you will see right at the end. Wow, look at that colour. As the tomato has reduced down, it's become a very vibrant dish here. The green from the chilies does drain a bit because of the heat, but it still looks a lot better than it was a couple of minutes ago. Just continue to reduce that down until it's my preferred consistency. Now, I decided to add the lemon juice after all because I tasted a bit of my sister's and it really, really helped the dish. In goes the ginger and the pepper as well. There you have it, Namkeen. Quick, I kind of take a bit of the naan, don't tell anyone, and try it to make sure it's alright, and it definitely is. Something about the simplicity of this thing that really enhances the flavour of what you've put in. There are no elaborate spices that take away from each other. There are no extraneous herbs that maybe take away from the main flavour. It's all focused on the main core ingredients. And that's it, dish it up, and on the side obviously you have to have some rice.